a lot of the focus of attention is also on the upcoming World Cup in the summer in the USA. And before that, a whole bunch of World Cup playoff games are going to be played to finally work out who's going to be in the finals come the summer. Iraq has made a formal request to have their World Cup playoff match postponed. It comes after they rejected a proposal from FIFA that the squad should make a 25-hour road journey to Turkey before flying to Mexico to fulfill the fixture. Iraq faces a World Cup playoff match against either Bolivia or Suriname in Monterrey on March the 31st. But all sorts of problems being faced by the Iraqis logistically. Around half of the Iraq squad are in Baghdad and they're unable to travel, while the head coach, Graham Arnold, is stuck in Dubai. Such are the problems coming from the problems thrown up by the ongoing conflict with Iran. Former Manchester United coach, now assistant manager for the Iraq national team, Rene Meulensteen, joins us live. Rene, good afternoon to you.
Hello, Jim. Good afternoon.
Good to speak to you. You're a man who's worn a few hats in his time since your time at Manchester United, and this is another. You're the assistant manager of the Iraq international squad. Of course, Graham Arnold, currently the man in charge. So what is the latest? I mean, what is the likelihood that you're going to be able to fulfill this playoff fixture?
Well, the situation is very uncertain, Jim. We obviously keep tabs every day if there's any developments. Graham will be speaking to members of the AFC and the FIFA on a regular basis. And as long as this uncertainty carries on, and you've already mentioned it in your intro, the biggest complication is that obviously the airspace around Iran and Iraq is shut. Therefore, the local players, we can't get out. And that was another, maybe a little bit of a miscalculation, of FIFA thinking that, all our players came from Iraq, but that's not the case. It's about a 50-50% split, 50% play in clubs abroad, some in other countries in the Middle East, but still quite a few in Europe as well. So, but the big problem is that the people that are in Iraq, that they are stuck at the moment.
Yeah, and are you and Graham in constant touch with those players who are indeed stuck in Iraq right now?
Yes, obviously. We need to know, obviously, we need to make sure that everybody obviously is safe and in these uncertain periods, because we talk about a football match, whereas this thing that's going on is by far bigger than anything else that we can comprehend. But yeah, it's not a good situation.
I mean, what was your reaction, Rene, if I can ask you, when FIFA proposed that you and the squad make a 25-hour road journey to Turkey and then fly to Mexico?
Well, make that 35, Jim. And I know what the roads look like in Iraq. That is absolutely not done. Absolutely unacceptable. It just cannot be done. I think also, Jim, what people need to realize and understand, and I would love to get Simon's take on this. People do not understand that if we play the winner of Suriname-Bolivia, that will be our 21st World Cup qualifier. 21st. So I always say the World Cup is the highest platform that every athlete wants to perform at. And then the road towards that platform is completely different from Europe, where teams only have to play 6 to 8 World Cup qualifiers. And if they go in the playoff, maybe 10. It is something that is not easy, especially not for countries like Iraq, because they don't have a lot of money, and what it costs, to fly all over Asia to play those games.
It's incredible. Simon's right beside me, Rene. As Rene says, there's 20.
Why so many? Just out of curiosity, because I'm not following it, Rene. Why so many games? What there's a necessity for so many games?
Well, to be fairly honest, Simon, I think it's just another money-making model for AFC. AFC could have easily looked at all the countries participating in the World Cup qualifiers, and then divided by the sort of top countries and the countries that can play a preliminary round. But that has not been done. So we ended up obviously in the first round of qualifiers, then in 3 groups of 6, of which we ended up in the playoffs again, which was a head scratcher again, because normally playoffs you would think are played on neutral ground or in home and away setup. But we had to play in Saudi with Indonesia, which Saudi give the home advantage. They played Indonesia first. We played them 3 days later, and then we played Indonesia of Saudi at the end. So Saudi had 5 days to recover to play the second game, and it cost Indonesia definitely, and it cost us at the end because we didn't qualify because of one goal. But these are things that are going on, which you sometimes scratch your head, because at the end of the day, I think FIFA stands for fair play, and I think they need to create a level playing field.
Rene, do you worry that if FIFA reject your request to replay this game on your terms, that you may be asked to forfeit the tie and it's goodbye to the World Cup finals?
Well, that would be an absolute, disaster. I wouldn't name it, because disaster is what's happening now in the Middle East in terms of the war, but it would be a huge, huge disappointment for all the people of Iraq that have been waiting 39 years. And it's a miracle already where we are at this moment, Jim, with the setup and the team and the things that we had to go through. So I think FIFA needs to do everything to make sure that that game is played, or like Graham says, maybe is postponed until 7 to 10 days before the World Cup.
Rene, it's my understanding, curiously, that you might get there anyway, because Iraq is seen as the most likely candidate to replace Iran should they, as maybe expected, have to withdraw from playing in the World Cup finals themselves. They're already there. But of course, there's huge doubt as to whether or not they'll get there.
Yes, that could happen. And then through the AFC, we are the highest ranked team, so we would then take Iran's place. And then UAE might step in to replace us to play the winner of Suriname against Bolivia. But there's also rumors that if the FIFA makes that final decision, they might push the highest ranked FIFA team to go to replace Iran, which is Italy. So you can think who would they rather have at the World Cup?
Absolutely. So they turn to Europe. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
You have to sympathise with Rene and the Iraqi players, Simon. After 21 matches in this campaign, they've got themselves to a playoff, and now they're being asked to do a bunch of things, not least a 25-hour road trip.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you, what's the fallback position? Okay, I mean, ultimately, what you're saying is to push the game back as far as you possibly can to make sure that the stability in the region becomes more prevalent and people can travel easier. Are you saying that your suggestion, your perspective is, or the perspective of your FA is that go as far away from the circumstances as now, even to be within 7 days of the tournament starting? Is that what your fallback position is?
Yes, that would be it, because it's very clear, Simon, that the airspace will be shut until the 1st of April. And our game is on the 31st of March. That's why Graham wants to buy time to making sure that we got April and May, and basically saying, listen, we then have got a little bit more time if we can get the players out to prepare. And if we do make it, we can stay there and participate in the World Cup. But I think the whole thing, Jim, throws so many other aspects of that needs to be looked at. Safety and security is one. And like I said, that those are all things that we cannot take lightly.
Absolutely. It must be hard, Rene, keeping the Iraqi players' minds on football.
Well, absolutely, because obviously we do speak, and they are so desperate to go to the World Cup. But you never know how this incident or this war is going to escalate and how much Iraq is going to be drawn into it. And obviously the players will have to look after the families as well.
Rene, it's always good to speak to you, and it's always good to speak to you wherever you find yourself working in the game, and you've had a few interesting engagements. I can't speak to you without throwing one to you about Manchester United. Michael Carrick has done so well in his time there, no doubt. You're asked this by any United fan who comes up and recognises you. You're instantly recognisable wearing your former Manchester United hat. What do you think is the likelihood that Michael gets it?
Well, it will be up for discussion, obviously, if the results keep coming. But you had the first spanner in the works against Newcastle, which I think he should, and probably he classed it as a disappointment, because if you go to 10 men with so many minutes to play and then lose the game at the end. And I did think it was not a surprise to what happened when he took over, because I said it even on another show of talkSPORT, it doesn't take much to fix it. And Michael fixed a lot. You could see that in the early games. He got the responses, he got the performances, he placed players in the right positions. They've got a lot of threat going forward, and they have got no midweek games. So that result against Newcastle and the performance was a disappointment for me, but a surprise as well, because you have all the time now to nail those principles down. Now, what is the likelihood for Michael to get it? He has to keep winning games. He just needs to keep winning games, but also he needs to, keep improving those performances that people start to recognise. This looks more like a Manchester United team of old. That's what he needs to try to achieve.
Rene, I want to thank you very much indeed for speaking. It amazes me. Thank you, Rene, for joining us live in the show. It amazes me that Rene, with all his experience and such a successful time at Manchester United, is not in the conversation to go back as first team coach.
Well, he's living a very varied life, isn't he? I mean, the interesting thing for the Iraq team is that they haven't ever qualified for a World Cup. They played in the '86 World Cup. So the fact they're in these new structures that are enabling them to potentially qualify is a positive. They've got to play 21 competitive games. Some would say, if you're an international manager, the more competitive games you play, the better your side's going to get. So I understand the amount of games they're about to play. The interesting thing will be for FIFA is how they have made a big play about increasing the World Cup to 48 teams to make sure that other regions are given opportunities to play and develop world football. Wenger talks about it in various things about how important it is. Yeah. So they really have got to work very hard to find a way to deny Iraq playing in this game, given the circumstances and geopolitics, and then shoehorning on the European side in like Italy. I understand why they might want to do it because of the commercial opportunity that Italy may present if it were Italy that were put into that position, as Rene was alluding to. But really and truly, you'd have to hold FIFA's feet to the fire and say, well, hang on a second, there's no harm in delaying this game until the draw will be made. The team will be put. It'll either be Bolivia, Suriname, or Iraq that are going to play in this particular space in the World Cup. Why can't we leave it until the very last minute for the final team to be determined? It can't be that big a deal. I mean, it can be achieved. So it would be, I think, poor on FIFA's part to suggest that they cannot delay this given the circumstances and give them, enough runway, for want of a better expression, to be able to play this game and subsequently have a team playing from that region. Yeah. That hasn't played there before, only went there in '86 from a default position, didn't qualify, never won a game in the World Cup, never been there since. You either want to develop world football or you don't.
True. I mean, it's not FIFA's fault though that certain countries' airspace is shut down.
No, but it's FIFA's. No, but hold on, that's not the point. FIFA's gift is, what do you need to have them? If you've got the tournament kicking off in June, and you've got playoffs now, and there's no harm. Ultimately, it's going to be one of these sides. You've drawn out who they're going to play against in the group stages, and so on and so forth. What is the factor that would stop you from giving them some ability to be able to play the game?